Alright, man. I am not gonna sugarcoat it. DVa was your worst by far. Now, I'm gonna give you some credit here. I think this is possibly one of the worst maps in the game for DVa, and I think the worst time you can play DVa is when your DPS isn't going in with you and is sitting really far back. And you said that one of the main problems was, well, that your DPS was constantly sitting far back. So you're both on a bad map for DVa, if you ask me, one of the worst in the game, and on top of that, you got DPS that are going to be doing the opposite of what you want. So, don't get me wrong, like, I understand that makes things really rough for you, but for that reason, I would say that DVa is a terrible pick here. I don't really like telling people just straight up don't play a character, and it's not even because that DVa's like necessarily a terrible character. In terms of pure win rate, she's apparently doing pretty good right now. But the main reason I would ward you away from DVa is, okay, this is going to sound a little bit mean, but I don't mean it in a mean way. In my experience, there are only two kinds of DVa. There is the DVa that has no idea what they're doing and is kind of terrible in the character, and there is the DVa that knows what they're doing and is actually impressively good, and there's like no middle ground. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I've never seen a meh DVa. Every DVa I see is either really bad or really good. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that DVa's kind of unintuitive. I think she's technically one of the harder tanks in the entire game to play, but the problem is that she does a lot of things that makes her very approachable to a brand new player, despite the fact she's technically a really hard tank. And that means two very distinct playstyles of her develop, one which is very common among lower skill players that just is really not very effective, and one that's much more common against much higher skill players. And unfortunately the bar is very high with DVa. If you can't play the high skill playstyle, it's hard to get value. And to make matters worse, while I think most people tend to exaggerate how much certain tanks suffered in 5v5, like I think tanks like Zarya and Roadhog, people doomsayed about their ability to work in 5v5, and to be honest, they work fine. But I will admit, I think DVa's probably the poster child of a tank that no longer works in 5v5, because she's the only dive tank in the game that's not a main tank. She's an off tank. In other words, she's not supposed to charge in first. She's literally not designed for it. She's designed to follow in after someone has already dived and give them defense matrix and extra fire for support. The problem is, you're the only tank, which means now your DPS have to be the ones who start the dive, but most DPS, because they're not tank players, don't understand how to do that properly and coordinate that and work with you. And so as a result, it becomes really difficult. This is also why I said, if you're playing DVa, you really want DPS that come in with you. The main problem you're having is that your DPS never follow in with you, and they're always sitting in the back. DVa's like one of the worst picks you could make, because the main time DVa's super valuable is when there's like a Tracer or a Genji in the enemy back line, and you can go in with them, not only to help them kill faster, but also to give them defense matrix, so that when they try to get anti-naded or slept or anything like that, you can just eat it and save their life. But you can't do that, because you're alone. You can only use defense matrix on yourself, and yourself is basically the weakest target you can use defense matrix on. Like, you're going to have to use it a lot, because obviously it's a lot easier to defense matrix yourself than your allies, but generally, if you can defense matrix your allies, that's 10 times more valuable. And there's a lot of situations here where you're just defense matrixing thin air. And it's kind of just because you don't have any allies to defense matrix. It's not even entirely your fault. Although, yeah, it is also a little bit just like DVa's difficult. Anyway, yeah, so I don't say this to like really like roast you or go really, really hard on you. There's a lot of people at this sort of rank that kind of do this. It's not just a you thing. This is kind of everyone. Like every DVa plat or below is like this, frankly. But like they always play from long range when that's the worst way to play DVa. She does like no damage unless you're at close range. They always like defense matrix down the choke and don't actually achieve anything by doing so. And it's kind of one of those things where the only way you can get value on DVa is by following up on dives that already exist, but to do that you need DPS that go in first. And it's kind of like, or you have to sit around and wait for the opponents to make a mistake, which kind of works on defense, not so much on attack, you know? It's much harder to make that work on attack, although still possible. So yeah, I think that you can make DVa work here if you play her extremely well, but the problem is, if you're going to play DVa here, I have to hold you to an extremely high standard, because it's just a really bad place to play DVa. So yeah, you said that you tried to play DVa to kill squishies easier, but if you want to try and kill squishies easier, I would definitely be playing Doomfist, Ball, or Winston, not DVa. Not that DVa can't kill squishies, she can, but she has to get so close, and she needs to rely on her DPS to help her out a lot. And so, yeah, it's not the pick I'd recommend. When you're an effective DVa, you're often calling people out for questionable positioning by charging into them the moment you notice someone is a little bit separated from their team and going in for the kill 1v1. When you're a good DVa, you're often paying attention to where all your teammates are at all times, ready to boosters over to them and defense matrix to save their life at any moment. When you're a good DVa, you basically exist to either punish people for trying to dive you at an inopportune time for them, or to support an already existing dive by following up on it. But you're not very good at starting and creating a dive out of thin air unless, as I mentioned, someone is already out of position when you start. So unfortunately I'm going to have to be pretty harsh here, but I will say, I recognise that I'm asking a lot of you in this bit, especially considering this is a Gold 5 VOD, but I will say, if this is too much, I really just think you just shouldn't play DVa here. I just really think you don't play DVa here. So I want you to think about everything I was just talking about in the spawn room, and I'm not even going to say a word. I'm just going to play the next like 40 seconds uninterrupted or something like that, and I think you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So, like, you see what I mean, right? It's rough out there, man. It is rough. So, not only... Okay, this is something you will have to do naturally in a lot of games as DVa, whether you like it or not. But just so you know, you need to develop a habit in your head that whenever you're doing this, you should scream at yourself, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I need to do something to change the situation. Because the worst place you can be in as DVa is standing way in the open and being forced to use your defense matrix simply to exist. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong to use it at all here. Yes, there's 4 enemies staring at you, and they're all going to be firing on you. You do need to use Defense Matrix. What I'm saying is, you don't want to continue standing here and continue using Defense Matrix. You want to use it very briefly and then dive into cover. You want to be using Defense Matrix as little as possible on yourself as DVa if you can help it. But you keep having to use it because you keep maintaining direct line of sight with the enemies. And the big reason why this is a big no-no is because... Well, just look at how non-existent your damage is from this range. This is what I mean with, like, I don't know what it is, but, like, something about DVa, I think it's just the fact that you still get hit markers, even though you're doing no damage. It kind of tricks people into thinking they're doing something in a position like this. But, I mean, what are you really doing here? You know, if I ask you, like, especially playing this, like, slowed down and being able to pause, you can really see, wow, like, how much damage did you do to Ramatra? Wrong button. Bleh. You have dealt 34 damage to Ramatra. You had to use a quarter of your defense matrix, and you had to use your rockets to do that. But you managed to do 34 damage to Ramatra. Only 491 to go, with healing. You see the problem. Thingy. You literally make nothing happen here as DVa by standing on the choke. Ultimately, it kind of sucks because, like... This should also really help illustrate it, although this is a little bit harder to visualize mid-game because you kind of need free cam like I'm using here. So I'm going to zoom out a bit right now. Okay, so this image is great to illustrate it. Your Kiriko is here, your Pharah is here, you are at the choke, Anna's over here, Hanzo's over here, and you're standing here. Now I want to ask you, imagine you just got snapped out of existence. You don't exist in this game anymore. It's 4v5. What changes? Do you think the DPS take any different positions? Do you think your supports have any different positions? Do you think you have any more resources available? Do you think any enemies that would be dead otherwise are alive? No. If you are removed from the map right now, with the current position you're playing, with the current hero you're playing, nothing is different. Your allies are still hiding behind walls because they're too scared to peek the choke. No one dies because you can't kill anyone from this range as DVa. And if anything, maybe your supports have more resources available because they're not like forced to constantly pump heals into you, and maybe the enemies have less ult charge because they've been farming ult charge after shooting you. You've kind of achieved nothing. Now, the worst part is, I guess I can see why you do this, because in theory, if your DPS like realize what's going on here, they could be like, okay, well, actually, usually I wouldn't be able to walk right through this choke without dying, but because my DVa's right here and holding up defense matrix, she's given me a window to walk through this choke and make something happen. The problem is that Especially at this rank, I don't think DPS are going to trust their tank for shit. They're just going to work under the assumption that if they try and walk out here, you immediately drop defense matrix and let them die. So trying to do a play like this, not only is it a little bit kind of not worth it and a bit scuffed, but even if it even if it could theoretically work, I just don't think people in gold are going to trust you enough. They're just going to they're going to assume that you're never going to hold it, and they're going to assume that they'll drop it right in front of their face and let them die. That's not exactly the fairest situation, but it's just kind of how people are going to be. They're not going to assume the best of their tank, especially that low down in ranked, you know? So, as a result, you kind of aren't achieving anything here. Now, I will give you this. I was saying this is both a team where it's really hard to play DVa, and a map where it's really hard to play DVa, and I already think that DVa's quite difficult of a character, and is only very popular with newer players because of the fact that she's not super aim dependent, and she has loads of health, and she gets a second life, so you can kind of get away with quote-unquote dying, but not really dying, which is obviously a bit of a safety net for newer players. But in reality, I do think to play DVa properly, the skill floor, is actually quite high. The entry requirement is actually higher than most tanks. But the thing is, despite everything I just said, while you would have had to act quickly, there is something you could have done to win this point, so to speak. I mean, you do get it eventually, but we'll get to that later. There is something you could have done differently. Can you take a guess at what it is? I'm going to replay this right now. There is a window you had to make something happen here that you did not take. Do you know what it is? You made eye contact with this soldier twice. This soldier who is currently half HP, alone, hiding in a corner. And not only that, a corner that's completely open that you could boost us into and finish him off. And even if you do this and your teammates don't follow up, which Afara is already firing on the soldier, so they probably will, but even assuming your teammates do not follow up, even if they don't, you can just get behind this wall, get cover, and then walk over here, and hello, little health pack. And then on top of that, once you're over here, do you know what you can do? You can just boost us over up to their high ground. And now you're on their high ground, and they have low ground. You can literally just, be chilling in their backline, and they can't do anything to stop you. You can break Pylon. You can do a whole lot from here. All you had to do was force this angle. In fact, even if this soldier isn't here, don't get me wrong, the fact that this soldier here is absolutely sweetening the deal. But even if that soldier isn't here, I do think as DVa, your best bet of making anything happen here is to force this angle and try and take control of this little corner of the map, so that later you can make your way over to their high ground using boosters. I think that's the best thing you can do here. But this is what I mean about the quick decision making. This is like the difference between a good DVa and a bad DVa. Because I know that you only got to look at that soldier for a split second, and I know there's a lot of other things happening taking your attention, but that's exactly what defines a good DVa versus a bad DVa, is that a good DVa sees that soldier and already is able to juggle in their mind everything else that's going on and assess the fact that if they charge that soldier right now, it is a worthwhile risk that probably pays off, and they go right for him before their window closes. Unfortunately, we kind of just end up sitting at the choke for a little bit too long here and not really getting anything done. What does happen here is I will give you at least some credit. You're in a situation here where you have to do something. If you keep sticking at that choke, nothing ever happens. And you do something, and it's something that I'm honestly going to commend you here, even though it looks really dumb. Looking at this, it looks like, what the hell is our tank doing? He's so dumb. Why is he just walking right into the Ram's face? But actually, I'm going to give you credit here. I think a lot of people would be too scared to do this and wouldn't have the balls to try and make something happen here because they know it looks kind of dumb. But honestly, it looks dumb, but you know what? It's way better than sitting at the choke. While sitting at the choke, quote-unquote, looks better, it kind of looks like you're doing something. In reality, you're doing nothing. Whereas walking into the Ram's face, it looks like you're doing something really stupid, and don't get me wrong, I do think you could have done a much better play, as I already described. But this is a play that makes things happen. I know that sounds really basic, but as I say, before, none of your plays will make anything happen because you're just sitting at the choke. Now, hang on a minute, actually landing a decent amount of headshots, we're doing good damage because we're right in his face, his health bar's actually going down, we're going to force out Nemesis form. We actually could have killed him if we managed to body block the doorway, but unfortunately we don't, and he grabs the health pack. He's nearly dead. And unfortunately, you landed a Junkrat trap. You get lucky, and the Junkrat accidentally replaces his trap, meaning that you get freed by accident. And you manage to get out. But then, unfortunately, you still die. And I will say, you could have dodged these Junkrat bombs. You kind of walked directly into them, but I won't hold it against you too much. Now, all this looks terrible. You know, like, you could have been flamed for that. I don't know if you were, but it could have been one of those things where you're, like, your DPS are like, what the fuck is our tank doing? Like, they just walked right into the Raptor's face and died. SMH. And don't get me wrong, that was not done smoothly at all. But I will say this. Do you want to know the next thing that happens? Even though you're dead, Ramatra's dead. And all support cooldowns have been forced. And there goes Kiriko. And there goes Soldier. And there goes Junkrat. And there goes Alari. You weren't even here for it, but we got everyone. And it might sound awkward, it might look like, well, that's just your DPS being good, but actually, kind of no. Well, don't get me wrong, your Pharaoh landed some good shots there, at least by the standards of this lobby. But, but honestly, that only happened because you had the balls to make something happen there, you know? Again, you definitely could have done a lot better. You could have thought it through a bit more. You could have executed it better. But at the end of the day, I'm glad you didn't just keep sitting at the choke, because you do lose that game. You don't even get first point if you just keep sitting at the choke. You just feed the enemy's ult charge, and you waste time and waste resources, and force your supports to constantly like hard pocket you so you're not perma-dead. That gets nothing done. You achieve nothing that way. So the fact that you did have the balls to make something happen there, the fact that you did like realize, I'm going to look dumb doing this, but I got to make something happen, I'm glad that you at least, you know, did that. But I will say, I know it sounds like a joke, but I mean it sincerely. Doing that is a lot of stuff like that is a lot of what Tank's about, unfortunately, and that's probably why it's a very unpopular role. Like, you do have to kind of sacrifice like a lot of your well-being to let people through chokes and all that, and to create situations where people can take angles and actually start making things happen in a fight instead of an extremely long stalemate. But the trick to doing that effectively is to do it and not die. I know it sounds very basic and dumb, but it's just very important. You can take damage. You can force supports to have to use resources on you so that you are able to get out. You can, you know, use your own resources. So long as you're making space for your team, it's fine. The one thing you need to not do is die. Now, there it didn't matter. There the fact you were dead didn't ruin things. Your four teammates were able to take the entire 4v4 and win once the Ramatra was dead. But it certainly would have been a lot easier if you weren't dead the whole time, you know? Thingy. And you could have avoided dying, as I say. There was a lot of chances where you could have played that a little bit differently. And it probably does go a lot smoother if you do, obviously, the optimal play of charging the soldier when you had the opportunity. But at the end of the day, we avoided the worst timeline. The worst timeline is you sitting in that choke forever and you never even get point. Now, I'm going to try and show some restraint, but this is where I get mad. This starts off light and gets worse as it goes, but we're going to witness one of the most horrific what the bronze moments I've seen in a while. Starting off light with just a little bit of spamming defense matrix and losing it all before we even start the fight, but hey, whatever. At least you're deleting stuff, but yeah, you definitely should not be using it on light poke damage like this. And I'm just not even going to comment. We'll just watch this. Oh my god, man. Come on, you can't be doing that, man. You can't. Okay. Okay. Let's wind that back. Okay, I'll admit, this situation is an absolute train wreck and not all of it is on you. but a lot of it is on you, I'm not gonna lie. And there are some points where I will be a little bit strict, and I will admit, you could have done this to salvage the situation, but it would have been difficult. Counterpoint, there are going to be some other points where the thing you could have done to salvage the situation would have been very easy, and you didn't do it. So I'm going to include everything you could have done to salvage the situation, and every way in which it went wrong. At the end of the day, that's the most constructive way to do it. Okay, so first of all, you're standing directly in front of the Ramatra shield so that you don't get any value. You're also standing directly in the Junkrat bombs. So you lost half your health before you even start, and you haven't even been able to damage the Ramatra. Very, very poor positioning. But then you walk through the shield, and there he goes. He pops Annihilation. Okay, so right now, you've got to make a decision pretty quick. Are we fighting this, or are we running away? Now, considering your teammates are all with you, and not all of them have escape routes, I would fight this. At the very least, I wouldn't mind if you ran away instantly. As if it was your snap decision, if it was like, I'm making the decision and I'm committing to it. Though I would say stick there and fight. It looks like you get completely lost. You land a few shots from the Ramatra, you get Suzu to bail you out, and then the Kiri dies. By the way, the Kiri is only in the Ramatra's range because she was trying to give you Suzu. So the Kiri saved your life and died for it. The fact that the Kiri is dead is your fault. Then on top of that, the Ana sleeps the Ramatra, but because you're lost and you're not paying attention, you shoot the sleeping Ramatra, waking him up, which now kills your Ana. Now that being said, if you actually looked at the Ramatra's health bar, it was very, very low. If I quickly switch back, he's down to 257 health. If you right now hard focus that Ramatra, charge right into him with boosters, you could potentially kill him before he kills Ana and save her life. But now, once already your Kiriko and your Ana has died because of your mistakes, after this is when you decide to fly away and leave your DPS to die. Now, so much PS to say. Two things at once happen here that are really bad as well. Everyone's pressing Q right now, everyone's pressing their ults, so as a result, a lot is happening. And I will admit, these next two things I'm going to say are going to be a little bit more, in fairness, that would have been difficult even for me. But I'm still going to say them, just to help illustrate to you just how many opportunities you missed to fix this situation. So, obviously the easy, more important ones was everything I just mentioned. You should have killed the Ramatra, you should have not woke him up if you were, like, you know, in the first place, you shouldn't have positioned yourself so badly, you shouldn't have been so indecisive here, blah 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 blah. Whatever, you get the point. But then also, I want to point something out. Okay, so right now, Alari ult and Riptire is going off. Do you notice something? I don't think you even registered that you just bonked into the Riptire. You maybe could have broke it if you fired on it, but you didn't even notice that you literally flew directly into the Riptire. So, that was certainly a thing that happened. But, okay, in fairness, would have been hard to react that fast to the Riptire and break it in time. Whatever. What might be more important is the fact that that the enemy Alari has just popped ult. And DVa's defense matrix is probably the single most effective counter to Alari's ult, because the hitbox of Alari's ult is so huge that you don't even have to literally have the thing like in the defense matrix for it to eat it. If you just peek out this window and tap defense matrix right now, you eat her ult. But you're not paying attention. I don't think you even really heard that the Alari popped ult, so you don't know she's there, and you don't know that right now you need to be trying to eat that ult. Meanwhile, your DPS are both cowering in the bookstore, praying that they live. I'd also like to point out that the Junkrat is here. In fairness, you can't see them through walls and we can, but you can use your headset. You can hear that the voice line came from this direction, you can see that the Riptire came from this direction, and just generally, if you know that a Junkrat is hiding somewhere in King's Row and is like trying to drop a Riptire on your head from high ground, good chance he's standing here, you know? Like, just realistically speaking, this is getting a bit more advanced at this point, but in fairness, if you're talking from the enemy team's perspective, if they are going to try and use a Riptire and drop it down from high ground, which is usually where they're going to do it from, you know, this is the place that's, like, leads directly to your high ground that's near to enemy spawn. Like, you know, it's kind of the place that they're going to be hiding. So, instead of standing around here, I'd be checking that corner and killing the Junkrat. But okay, that is quite a lot to ask of you. We get back, though, to not even having to ask a lot of you to be able to criticize you. So, honestly, actually. Okay, so first of all, your supports are both dead. You killed them both. So as a result, you coming back down to fight this is a bit of a risky decision. And I don't necessarily think it's exactly objectively wrong to try and help your DPS here, but I will just say, you already let Hanzo die. At this point, you're saving no one but Reaper, who already has Wraith form to get out anyway. But hey, you're still helping the Reaper, I guess. But even then, when you fly down, why are you flying on Ramatra with full HP instead of the half HP Alari? Especially because the half HP Alari is actually the one blocking their exit, like, or at least she was, and the Ramatra isn't, you know? It's like kind of the wrong target to go for. But then on top of all that, you don't even stick on the Ramatra because he just walks away and doesn't care. So now you're going to try and kill the full HP soldier who has an Alari pocketing him. That's not really going to work out, but luckily actually it does because the Alari misses a heal beam and panics. But I mean, yeah, Reaper finishes the job there. Kind of lucky that you get away with that, but whatever. And this is the only point at which I would say you got a good defense matrix usage. But even then, I was like, okay, this is good. We're defense matrixing the Reaper. We're making sure he gets out alive. Oh. Now, in fairness, you were going to drop defense matrix here, but I want to point out how long you keep holding it after you've already looked away. You're deleting nothing. You've just lost. You've lost about a quarter of your defense matrix to nothing. It looks like you're just getting really lost at this point. Your Kiriko's come back out of spawn and is currently healing you. At this point, you should sit and wait and get healed. What do? There's so much wrong here, man. Okay, first of all, I think your Reaper thought that you were helping him, which is why he's still in the fight. So I'll just say, you didn't run out of defense matrix. I would have kept, like, following the Reaper around and using defense matrix to make sure he stayed alive. Especially because your Kiriko was back. But, too late for that now. Whatever, fine. The past is the past. It's done. What's done is done. But this bomb, man. This genuinely might be the... Yeah, no, I'll say it. I think this might be the worst DVa Bomb I have ever seen in any game of Overwatch ever. Like, even when I see, spectating bronze videos, like, at the very least, people go for, like, wacky bombs, I don't know, that, like, you wouldn't expect. This one, okay, this bomb, don't get me wrong, there's more of a vision with this bomb than some really dumb bombs you see in bronze or whatever. But the timing of it makes it even worse. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm not mad that the bomb landed behind the payload and didn't get anyone. Like, don't get me wrong, that is bad, but I get it. It's hard to memorize the exact location of the payload, and I mean, you did know that the DVa Bomb was going to fly through the window and fly towards the enemies, you just didn't expect the payload to be perfectly in the way. And maybe you expected it would land on the payload, it very nearly did, but unfortunately fell just short. You know, I'm not going to be mad that you didn't get the trajectory right. I'm mad that this is one of the worst times to try and throw out a DVa Bomb. To make things clear, as most people know, DVa Bomb is quite infamous as an ultimate. In bronze and really low ranks, it always gets a kill, and it's one of the most broken ultimates in the game because no one knows how to hide from it. Anywhere above, like, the metal ranks, it's kind of terrible, because people know how to hide from it. It's not that hard. It's, unless you're Ana or Zenyatta, you're like a zero mobility character that has no shields, then sometimes the bomb dropping on you is literally unavoidable, because, like, you can't get to cover fast enough, and you have no way to shield it. But for most characters in the game, they have some form of mobility, or they have some way to tank it without dying. Like, even Cassidy's dodge roll, even just dodge roll has 75, the damage resistance on it. It got nerfed to 50% again now, actually, but still. It has the damage resistance on it, which means if you're on the outer ring, you can survive the explosion even if you can't get to cover. So, like, basically everyone has a way to not die to bomb. But the point I'm making is that because bomb is something that almost everyone has a button they can use to make sure they never die to it, and it's also something that is very distracting, bomb is best used in the middle of a messy team fight. Because if you're in the middle of if the enemies are in the middle of a messy team fight, one, they might not have their buttons, and if they don't have their buttons, they can't escape the bomb. And two, if they do have their buttons, even still, they might have to give up the team fight when they're winning. Because while they are winning the team fight, if they want to keep winning the team fight, they'd have to keep fighting next to the bomb, and then it will just blow up and kill them. So they have to retreat and give you space, even though they're winning the team fight, because the bomb has completely reset things back to neutral. And that actually allows your team to take some space and maybe get the advantage in the team fight again. You know, that's what we like to call a zoning ult, baby. Zero kill bomb, but still gets loads of value by forcing a reset on a team fight you were maybe losing. And also just give you a mech back. But here's the problem. right here, where exactly is the team fight? Where are the teammates? Alright, you caused the death of your Ana, you caused the death of your Kiriko, you left your Hanzo to die, and you left your Reaper to die. So no one is fighting the enemies right now, and they have all their buttons. As well as that, they have no one to pay attention to except you. So of course, if you drop a bomb in front of their faces, first thing that's going to happen is the Ramatra, who by the way has shield and used it, will just shield the bomb. That's of course the first thing that's going to happen, even if you get the bomb correctly. You didn't even get it far enough to like hit the healing pylon. You know? You could have at least gotten the healing pylon, but no, didn't even get that. You know? This is why like, I'm really, really like hitting you hard on this bomb, because it's just... I get it, you know, you want to do the cool, like, throw it through the window, and oh, they don't see it coming, but like... Okay, this, ironically enough, the whole point of bomb is to be unpredictable. And when you try to go for really obvious setups like that, yes, are flashy, but are so predictable and, like, easy to see coming, it's honestly kind of even worse than just dropping a bomb out of nowhere in the middle of a fight. Because at least dropping a bomb out of nowhere in the middle of a fight, as much as it isn't exactly, like, flashy and it's really basic and it doesn't take a lot of skill, it is something they don't often expect you to do. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that's the smart way to use bomb, but it's a little bit better than just kind of trying to throw it out in the middle of a non-existent team fight because everyone's already dead, when the enemies have all their buttons. And... yeah, you get the point. Even if this is a perfect bomb, even if you yeet this bomb through the window, it goes over the payload, it manages to get around the corner, and it even manages to get so far that if they ran into that little building where the health pack is, they'd still die. Even if all that happens, Ramatch just drop shield. Everyone lives. Maybe you kill Healing Pylon and that's it. Congratulations. You know, that's the best case scenario for this bomb. And it's not the fact that, like, oh, the angle is, like, terrible, you know, like you're shooting it through the window, whatever, it looks cool, but it doesn't do anything because the timing is awful. It's the worst timing possible to throw it. And the worst part is, I don't know for sure, but I think you did this to remech, because this didn't seem very well thought out. So you kind of just leave your Reaper to die there. I think you realize you were low health, and you're like, I want a new mech, so I'm just going to throw this out. And you were literally already being healed. Like, just sit there for 2 more seconds, and Kiri gets you to full health. So, yeah. Listen, I know I'm going really harsh on you for this bomb, but like, I really need you to understand, you can't be doing bombs like that. Not only would I say just save the bomb for like a different like timing when you've actually got a team fight going on and they might not have buttons and they might not see it coming. But on top of that, if you are going to try and go for like a real Hail Mary bomb, which I do not like, by the way, I don't like in the first place. My camera appears to be okay. Hello? Okay. Oh, there we go. Even barring all that, like, personally, I don't know, man. I just think you don't bomb there. I was about to say maybe I would trying to slide the bomb off a roof here, because that's a little bit more unexpected. It's not quite as flashy as getting it through the window, but it's honestly probably more unexpected. But now I'm looking at the angle, I don't even think you can probably get a good one. So yeah, no, I just think you wait for a better time to bomb. I think you just do. I'd like to point out how long it took you to break that healing pylon. This is another thing. I feel like a lot of people don't quite get, like, DVa's weapons. You want as much of this circle to be filled with the healing pylon as possible. And the less of it that's filled, the less damage your pellets are going to go. I see that the dot is on the pylon, but it doesn't matter because 3/4 of the circle isn't in the pylon. So you're dealing literally probably like a quarter of the damage you should be doing to this pylon. And it's, you know, it's not even moving, so you've got to make sure like you're not missing your bullets on that. Okay, something just changed. And in fairness, it'd be a little bit difficult to notice immediately, but something just changed. That means I think there's something you need to be doing right now that you're not doing. Take a guess what it is. And I think you made the wrong decision here. Also, your defense matrixing Ramatra punches. Okay, do you want to know what it is? If you hadn't already guessed, this soldier right here. No line of sight to any of his supports, completely isolated and on high ground, and your DVa right here. You have boosters, you just boop him into this wall where none of his supports can see him, 1v1 him, kill him, dead. The fact that you didn't kill him not only means that you missed a chance to get a kill, it not only means you're not using the whole point of playing DVa is that you're playing a tank that can actually just get high ground for free every 4 seconds and take 1v1s with people that are really effective. You don't want to be 1v5ing as DVa, you really want to be taking 1v1s with DVa especially. Like, there's some tanks out there that can sometimes take ridiculous fights where they should lose, like, Mauga can sometimes just 1v5 if he gets lucky and he gets, a really good setup. But DVa is not a tank like Mauga. You want to be 1v1ing everyone you can. You don't want to be taking 1v5 fights at all, under any circumstances, basically. So, this is the perfect situation right here. You need to do this. And the fact that you didn't not only means you missed out on a kill, but the very person you could have killed now is killing you. Right now, you actually maybe get away if Soldier's dead, but he's not. He's got free high ground. So, yeah. As well as that, he probably weakened your follow-up, because more people probably would have followed up on that Kitsune rush. It weren't the fact that there was a soldier standing here preventing them from walking forward.